right, recording in progress. The fake AI generated voice, the only one that I trust. Everything else is crap. Welcome to Bolded Slugs, the podcast. My name is Zeus Ryan. Today we've got Megan Rees. How we doing? Tell the hench folk how you are.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. I'm cold, but I'm good.
Perfect. This is the first episode officially recorded after dinner. So welcome to the first installment of Bolded Slugs After Dark. Or
It's
pre
been dark for like 3 hours because it's winter and it gets dark at 2 p.m. and I hate it.
I made the mistake a long time ago of buying blackout curtains. So I don't know what time it is at any point of any given day. And I will just randomly fall asleep sitting in this chair at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the same way you would if you're super tired at midnight. It's all dumb. Everything sucks. And it's cold. And I'm from Iowa. So I remind myself every time it gets into December, why do I live in a place where the air hurts my face?
Yeah. Yeah, so you know about real winter. I applaud you. I'm from California. I lived in New York for 7 years, 8 winters, and I never got used to it. And I don't understand how people do it. And I think you're all amazing because why?
uh, we are still warm enough that most people are just rocking hoodies over basketball shorts. That's. But I noticed that you said that you're from Oakland, in Oakland, or at least California based at one point. And I went to college. I went to college in Hayward, and
No.
I giggled every time it dropped below 60. People were busting out like fucking just parkas and stuff, and I'm going in like a t-shirt, being like, "Man, this is really nice weather. I can get used to this." And everybody's like, "It's so cold. It's so cold. I don't know what to do."
Yeah, that's correct. And you're welcome to make fun of me, but that is correct.
We and depending on where you live, even here, I've got friends in Minnesota who basically just tell me like, "You suck it up, Buttercup. It's -40, and we still go to work every day." And we get the polar vortex now, which growing up we never got that. It's a thing. I swear, the moon landing was real, but the polar vortex is fake. That's totally generated CGI. But it's some of the
Like we
colder.
get like atmospheric rivers now. That's not a thing I ever heard of before like 5 years ago. So
I you ever you ever see a lake underwater?
yeah.
How does any of this work? It's atmospheric rhythm. I don't care. Let's talk
I
about
know.
writing because those are the
Okay.
only things that make me feel okay. So, uh, what do you do? What do you like to do? What do you want to do? What's your 5 year plan in this landscape post strike? Everybody's getting jobs, 7 meetings a day except for us. Everyone's successful except for all of the people that aren't, and then we cry. And so, where are you at in the spectrum?
Yeah, well, congrats to all the people getting all the meetings and all that stuff. I literally was just journaling like this morning, like, it's okay. I'm not ready. um,
The
so
things
I
we
have
tell ourselves, right?
yeah, I mean, like I feel like there's been such a panic since the strike ended and everybody is just like I don't know, shooting their shots and all that stuff. And I'm personally like, I know that there was a lot of people before the strike who were already like in it. They were already assistants, or even some of them had been, staff writers and they were looking for work. And I'm like, there's a whole lot of people ahead of me, and I'm okay with that. I also know that I have like a lot to work on in terms of my own craft and my speed at being able to do things. So I don't actually feel like I'm ready today. Like I know I have some raw materials that are going to make me a great writer someday or make me a great writer now, but there's a level of experience that I want to have under my belt before I feel like I'm ready to like really jump in line for any of this stuff. So right now I'm just focused on getting my craft to the best place I can, and working on new stuff. I every time I start a new project, I try to learn a new skill or hone a new skill. So I got to participate in David Wappel's script accelerator program,
Oh,
and
nice.
he's amazing. Shout out to David, and
For sure. I've
and
worked. I've worked with him once before. He said very nice things. I kept the email. as proof that it happened. So no, David getting a huge shout out for sure.
Wonderful human being. And in that piece, like I was a lot further behind my cohort. They were all kind of like in their drafts already, and I'm just trying to get great at outlining. It's not something that comes easily to me. It's not like sort of intuitive to me. I'm a very inside out kind of writer, but I want to write in TV. And so I want to get great at outlining. I want to
Outlines are the
understand outlining. I want to,
standard, yeah.
yeah, I know that it's a deliverable, and I know that it's something that I need to share with my team. And so I'm going to get good at it. That's what I'm going to do.
Your
Um,
response strikes me as reasoned, thoughtful, and rational. And I frankly don't know how to respond to that.
well, those are
Because,
three things I'm not sure I've ever been told before. So, okay, all right.
well, you're sitting here on a podcast called Bold and Slugs. Like, I'm literally just out here being like, I don't fuck your process. I'll use continuous and hyphens. I don't give a shit about your rules. And you're like, no, there are things that I need to get better. And it's the self awareness is like, oh shit, I don't. Should I have that? Is that a thing? Because I don't have that. I'm trying to like kickstart things and like you said, shoot shots and stuff. And it's like, no, maybe I should just actually go back to the drawing table and focus on, you know, the things that I feel are holes in my game. And it's like I don't know that I have an appropriate response for that. And I'm kind of proud of you. I'm super proud of you.
Listen, ask me tomorrow. I might be like, oh my God, this is never going to happen. And I hate everything and I quit. But, I really I want to bring my A game. When I get into a room, I want to be able to contribute. And I want to feel, it's going to be scary no matter what. So I want to have as much confidence in my craft that I'm ready. Day one, I'm ready. Knowing that it's going to be a huge learning curve, of course, but being as ready as I can be.
I think a lot of people, we have these dreams. They come to us often as amorphous concepts where we feel a pull in a particular way. But really, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it's like, whoa. I go back to the quote from the Joker in The Dark Knight. It's like, I feel like a dog is chasing a car and I don't know what I would do if I caught it. I want to be in a room. I don't know what the hell goes on in there. I've heard stories, some good, mostly not great. But yeah, I don't. How do you gauge an unknown like that in terms of what you think you can contribute, what you are expected to contribute given your particular level, whatever that might be when you walk in the door, and how much kind of legwork do you feel like you need to put in order to not even and I want to ask you this. Do you feel like there is an expectation on you to have your talents be unquestionably on point, or is it like I know a guy who knows a guy and he's given me a shot and I would be okay with that because opportunities are few and far between? Like, do you need to be expert level ready, or you're just like, hey, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play?
Yeah, I don't think expert. I think if I did that, I'll never get in a room. But I do like I feel like I'm not fast enough with breaking story or understanding a character or getting to the nitty gritty things. And I want to get faster. And every time I write a script, I get faster. And every time I write a script, I learn something new. So I know, like, I mean, God, if someone gave me an opportunity tomorrow, I would take it and work my ass off and hope for the best. But I also don't want to set myself up to fail, and I want to feel like I have a little bit more facility with some of the things that I'll need to be able to do in order to really like go in and be ready. It's such a bizarre field, like most other fields, like you get a job after you do your training or whatever, and then you do that for a while and nobody expects too much of you, and then you do it more and you get more responsibilities and you rise the ranks. This is weird. It's like it's all audition based, and we had no idea. We don't have any way to really prepare for it until we get there. It's
Mm-hmm.
so bizarre. The whole thing is really wild and bizarre.
Because
But I just, like I know, like I'm gonna know when I'm like, yeah, okay, put me in, coach, and I'm not quite there yet.
there is a sense, and I've talked to other people who have kind of taken, the educational path, not necessarily strictly film school, but MFA programs, and they go kind of the university route. Um, I did not. I am more of the I watch things, and then I print out the scripts, and then I take from that stuff, and then I like hope for the best. Where do you think, more broadly, where do you think new writers on the come up who are looking for the same opportunities you and I are looking for would best be served to focus their time in terms of that preparation when your number gets called? You're confident that you can get success. I'm a writer, and I'm good with words. Look at me go. But the
Do
things,
you want to like chat it to me and all?
yeah, I should have I need an editor is absolutely what I need, because I can't edit. I don't like it, and then my brain is just like, fuck it, we'll do it live. But like, where contests, fellowships, programs, new writers like you and me, we're inundated with that stuff. Where do you think a writer is best served to hone the skills of the craft as you see it?
Ooh, that's a $1 million question. And I think there's a lot of answers. I mean, number one, you gotta write. You gotta write and write and write and write some more and write and write and write and write some more. But it is true that there are other things that you can be developing at the same time. I'm definitely a proponent of listening to every talk you can hear. There's so many, especially since the pandemic, there's been so many things offered for free. There's word by word. There's a ton of podcasts. There's, Coverfly does lab workshops where they do Zooms. The WGA does Zooms. So, everything you can take part in, listen. And for me, it's not necessarily that I gain amazing new insight. Often there's a lot of content that sort of gets repeated and told from different perspectives by different people, but it's also about like who are the screenwriters I want to watch? Like, who are the screenwriters I want to potentially work for someday? Who has the kind of vibe that I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what, and I'm going to follow their work. I'm going to watch podcasts they're on, and I'm going to hope to meet them someday. Cause I think it is true. You said earlier, like who there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely um a whole networking component of the career path that is important, and I don't know that it's more important than writing, but it is important.
Depending on who you talk to. I mean, and that's kind of why I ask these questions, is because the things that I feel get repeated, like you said, um, different perspectives of the same thing, but it boils down to, really none of it matters. Your work can be middling to passing, but as long as you know the guy who owns Netflix, you're fine. And I'm kind of like, just doesn't that doesn't seem practical. It doesn't seem actionable, and it also feels disingenuous to the art that I'm trying to participate in. Is that it seems very cynical, and I'm super fucking cynical. So when I'm calling it out, I'm like, that just feels wrong.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't speak to the nepo baby shit. Like I have that's not going to be me ever. That isn't me, and I don't care, and the stuff that comes from that I don't care much about.
Mm-hmm.
But an example is so I feel like there's a certain aspect of knowing what's going on, knowing who's working on what, no, sort of becoming fans of the writers that you might want to work with someday, or that do the kind of stuff that you care about. So there's a certain aspect of like being ready when it comes to that stuff. There's the being ready when it comes to your script work and your writing. Like that's the one thing you can control exclusively,
Out of
right?
all of it, that's
Out
the
of
the
all.
one. Yeah.
But um I think showing up to so you got to show up to the page, show up to the writing, to the watering holes. So I just happened to run smack into one of the show writers that I'm a giant fan of, who had some projects down, in the pipeline that I was really excited about. And I ran into her on the picket line. And it was one of those like literally straight out of a movie. I'm walking from the SAG check-in to the WGA check-in trying to find it. and here comes somebody in a WGA shirt, and I stop her to ask her, am I headed the right way? And I'm like, oh my God, and are you so and so? And I was able to like rattle, oh my God, I really love this, and I'm so excited you have the option of this, and just, like talk to her. Not I don't think I came off too unchill. I was like a little bit unchill,
Oh,
but
you were totally professional. Clearly,
but
I don't doubt it for a second.
she was so delighted that I knew who she was and I knew about her work that she offered to have a coffee chat with me. And then, I got to have a coffee chat with her. And so there is an element of like going to IMDb and seeing who's got the option for the book you really are interested in, or seeing, your favorite showrunners, what they're working on next, because you might meet them, but that is, you got to put yourself in line to meet them too.
Right.
Go to the film festivals, participate in direct actions, whatever that is. So there is like that kind of network. I also think you got to make relationships, and everyone said this is not, I'm not saying this like new, but make relationships with people who are at the level that you're at. Like we can all rise together. Your friends that you make along the way are going to start getting representation. Maybe they can recommend you for things, but find the people whose work you like and who likes your work, and read each other's work, give each other notes, and rise together. So there's that networking too, the sort of not just hierarchical but across, there's lateral and longitudinal, I don't know, what the words are, but
I went to public school, so I'm just saying yes to everything. But I learned that concept in theater school. That was actually one of the few things that they hammered into us very much was, the notion of dance with the ones that brought you. The people that are at your level are experiencing things similar to you, but maybe not necessarily at the same speed you are, because somebody is bound to get a break, sooner than another. But if you build that relationship, ostensibly that's the reason why this podcast exists, is, especially after watching the owner of a particular platform I'm fond of socially just shit the bed publicly, I'm more and more worried that I'm going to lose the connections that I have. And I'm like, well, the best way I can do that is just see if maybe they'll talk to me for a half an hour. And when you have success, not that I'm taking any credit for it, but it's like, I feel like, yeah, one of us, and it would be a shame to have the years that some of us have invested in a platform like Twitter to kind of not have had any fruit kind of born of it. Um, because it's not as big, I think a lot of people would expect. Oh, it's big. Oh, Hollywood is huge. It's like, no, it's like 7 people. And they all know each other, and you're passing by someone on a strike, on a picket, and it's like, oh, you're literally my hero, and I'm standing next to you right now. I guess like the sports equivalent would be like running into, like LeBron or Kobe or other sports people, and and then being like, yeah, bro, like I would love to, go to the gym and shoot hoops with you or something. Um, I don't have a natural segue out of that, is because I
I,
agree I agree with it to the point where it's just like, why doesn't everybody else just recognize that as the way of things and not feel like it's a competition against each other?
oh my God, please. Like this is my soapbox you're about to get me on. Like I have never been a competitive person in my life. Like, I remember once I was playing Scrabble at a bar with three friends, and it was my friend and I on one side and facing these two other players on the other side. And the two on the other side were just like those cutthroat players that were like, they would have a tiny word, but they would block you off from the triple word score. And I'm out here just like trying to make the best word. And I said to them, I was like, like I was an only child. I'm just so excited to have people to play with. And
Right?
the one of the guys on the other side was like, we were only children too, and we must win. I'm like, what, are you kidding? Like, I don't care. I just want to make cool words and like have drinks with you and like and play, and that's kind of how I feel about screenwriting. And I truly believe like we don't need to all fight for one slice of pie. Like I think we need to like make more pies and maybe some cakes and maybe some torts, and and everybody gets what they want. And I also feel like I am a lover of TV and film, and so it's not just that like it's my future career, let's hope, but
Hmm.
I love TV and film, and I always have, and I would love to see more things created by more types of identities. I am so lucky to have grown up in the Bay Area where I have, except for in my very nuclear family, never really been in a room of all white people. That's just not my reality. So I don't want to see shows where that's all there is, because that doesn't look like what I'm used to. I'm used to worlds where there's all kinds of people, all kinds of gender expressions, all kinds of like statuses in terms of immigration or not, or like sexual preferences. Like it's very weird to me that we keep making stuff that's so safe, and I want to hear from everybody, and I want to see all these characters on TV, and I don't want to like just like watch a show that's full of black people that are only talking about what it's like to be black, or like there are black people in the world who just are existing like any there are brown people in the world who are just existing and going through some same things. So like I just want to see regular everyday people that look like my regular everyday life.
To
Sorry, I
be
went on a huge soapbox.
No, that is absolutely one of the main things I've been saying for the last few episodes is I'm a middle-aged white dude from Iowa. Like I've had a good run. My face has been plastered on everything since film cameras were invented, and then before that, it was fucking paintings and theater, going back to ancient Greece. God forbid, my name is Zeus for the It's like I'm aware that representation has never been an issue I've had to worry about, and the idea that we can't just have people on screen as the people that they are, telling story like the worst that should happen is we learn something. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a perspective that I didn't particularly have. Uh, Perfect example. I went to college, like I said, in Hayward, and growing up in the Midwest, I see a lot of people like me. And the first experience that I had of, oh, that is not representative of everything was the first time I was the only white guy in a college class, and I looked around and I'm like, oh, it's literally that easy. You just get out of your comfort zone, and then magically other people show up, and it's not that big of a deal. And you talk to them, you become friends with them, and it literally doesn't matter. So I know we're kind of breaking things down simply here to complex, socio-economical crap, but I literally think it's just that easy. And like you said, things have been safe for so long that we've heard the stories from people we've heard them from. Who The question that I have that I'll pose to you is, who's going to take the chances? I've had people tell me that it comes down to someone at the top, wherever, distribution, film, TV, whoever. Who do you think at the top, position wise, needs to take those risks to get these voices onto screens so people can finally see themselves the way that I have my entire life?
I mean, everybody, I like studio execs, producers, everybody. And I don't like, part of me feels like helpless to change that, except for, like what I can do is like continue to shout out shows that I think aren't getting enough love. I love This Fool. It's a great show. It's an all Latinx writer team, and the cast. It's a beautiful show, and I don't think anyone's talking about it. So I talk about it whenever I can, and I also think like we as emerging writers could do a better job. I'll sometimes see the spec script shout outs, and I'll see people that are listing scripts and like five scripts, and it's all white men.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to emerging screenwriters is, are you making sure to read scripts from people who are outside of your own identity? And are you especially making an effort to read scripts from people who are from the most underrepresented identities? Because it starts with us, and then we're the contest readers. The contest readers tend to be, if you have an environment where mostly white, cisgendered, heterosexual men have been welcomed, then your contest readers are going to be a big portion of
Pool
them
of
are
that, yeah.
of that identity. And then, we're certain scripts are going to get passed up the ranks of the contest and certain aren't. So like we have to start with us. I don't know what I can do at the top except to just be very loud about the shows that I think aren't getting enough love. It's really unfortunate because I think I'm in the biggest TV watching demographic, but I'm like, will anybody just ask me what I want to see? Because I'll tell you what I want to see. And it's not Sex in the City, anymore, right? So
Right.
so I don't know. I mean, I think I talked to a manager about this at AFF, I'm really especially concerned right now about women's ensemble TV shows because they tend to get canceled after one season. And the ones I particularly love are not just women, but they're a diverse set of women.
Mm-hmm.
And that manager was like, yeah, we have to just keep pushing them through. We just have to keep pushing them through. And, hopefully eventually, things start to change. It feels sometimes like Hollywood changes very slowly. And we've made some inroads in society in some ways, or we've been loud about certain things, or we've sort of had bigger conversations out in the rest of the world,
Right.
and Hollywood is still not really taking risks. And I hear execs say stuff like, I have these mandates that are more inclusive content, and yet we don't really we don't really
Well, and
listen
then
to our
the
mandates.
word mandate kind of almost, to me, I think I've seen some of the same things that you may have. Is that, to me, the word mandate almost comes across like a pejorative, like a curse word. It's like, I've got a mandate, and it's like, well, that's the reason why none of this shit's getting made. Stupid, is because you're treating that like, you know, it's, I don't want to do that, and it's like, no, people are saying this is what we would like to see, and there's money in it. You like money, right? Isn't that, because every time I hear somebody get into an argument like this about, what the market wants, no, don't chase trends, things like that, people often reply with, well, it's show business, and it's like, yeah, if there's money in it, why aren't, to coin a decades old Family Guy reference, why are we not funding this? And
Yeah.
when Hollywood seems to make like the political spectrum move at a rocket pace in terms of the things that I talked to someone a couple days ago about strong female characters, and it's like, we used to have them. They used to be on TV all the time. Where'd they go? Buffy, Xena, Alias. Just pick your poison. They were all over our TV screens. They're generational programs. I grew up on Buffy. I'm not a woman. I'm not a female. I'm not none of those things. But I identify with Buffy. I grew up on that show, the same way that I grew up on certain aspects of like Law and Order programming, because I watched the same crap my parents watch. But where did those things go? Our generation are the people who should be filling these spots now, and we're being told, nah, you know, uh,
Yeah, it's
I,
I
I,
don't
I
I
don't get it. I don't have a question. That's just a frustration that I have, because
know.
it just seems like it would be so easy because we had it for a while, didn't we?
Yeah, and I mean, I counter that a little bit with thinking like some of those shows that you mentioned also were still through a male gaze, so they
Oh,
might
I,
have
I,
female
I
protagonists. But
Whedon can, nope. I get it. Not the best
yeah,
example, but sadly one
yeah,
of the few
but
that I have.
I have been revisiting some older pilots, and it's been curious to me, like even The Greatest American Hero, that show's old, right?
Wayback
Like,
Machine, absolutely.
and I was looking, I was like, wow, there's some stuff going on in this casting and in some of what they're doing that feels like more progressive than where we are today. I mean, listen, there were some things that were backwards too. I'm not saying it was perfect, but that seem like, like less progressive than where we're at today. So I don't know what the hell that's about. And I've been watching the Golden Girls recently, kind of
I
revisiting them.
noticed that on your Twitter. I wanted to ask you about like how that was going, because Golden Girls was a staple in my house. I
Yeah,
love that show. It's comedy legend.
I'm trying to get to the essence of why it's so beloved by it's sort of universally beloved, even though
Mm-hmm.
it was these four women who were meant to be in their 60s and up, even though they're I think they're all in their 50s when they were in it. But
Wasn't like Estelle Getty only like 12 years older than B. Arthur? Like,
yeah.
there's no reason she should have been cast as her mother, but
Weird.
it
I mean,
worked.
that's
It
a whole
worked.
other thing we could casting it. Oh, we could talk about for a whole other podcast. But it's really interesting how beloved it is, and I started looking at it, and one of the I can't remember what role she had. She was like executive story editor, producing, whatever. She was like kind of the number two level, I think, was a black woman, and I'm like, okay, so this was written in the 80s.
Hmm.
And people are like trying to make it sound like we have to have a diversity hire. And I'm like, one of the most beloved comedies of all time, had a black woman in an important writer role in the 80s. Like this is not a new thing, and it's not like they're just sneaking in there. Like they've always been there, and why it's such a big deal and why we're not um making enough space for them today is baffling to me. I don't have the answers. I mean, I can conjecture, and a lot of it is very negative and cynical and etc. But
It's hard not to be bitter, but at the same time, it's very much a guys, we've done this. It may have not been the amount, I guess, maybe that we might expect now in 2023, but like something is better than nothing, than nothing, and then complaining about it, and then oh, I got a mandate, and then you just don't. It's, 30 years is not that long a time.
yeah.
Feels like it because my knees would tell me that it is, but it's not that long a time.
Based on what I heard about how old I am today, I'm just like, what? Like, if I'm born at what age I'm old? Oh Lord. No, but it's like I see things like Reservation Dogs, and certainly like Insecure and some of these shows that were written by folks of color and featuring folks of color. What makes me nervous is that like oh, they were really successful and that's amazing, that then the industry is going to like look at people and like, could you make us the next Insecure? And it's like, I don't want the next Insecure was amazing and it
Mm-hmm.
stands on its own, but I would like creators of color to make whatever they want. That's and not to it for it to be held to a standard of make it another one of these, and I don't want the next older women's ensemble to be the next Golden Girls, and I don't want the next show that's featuring indigenous creators and actors to be the next Reservation Dogs. Like there's a world of possibilities. It doesn't mean that one thing that was successful we have to duplicate that. Like let's just open it up for more creators
Well,
and
and it
and
would be helpful if they
uh,
didn't cancel that stuff after one season. It's like
yeah.
you want me to make the next thing. You didn't even give it a full slate of episodes. Like I don't have any hope that you're giving me the ball to run with, dude. Like you're telling me, well, they had 14 episodes. I might give you half. I was like, oh, great, okay. So
Yeah. And I asked somebody about it and they gave me some bullshit answer about data, like and viewership. And I'm like, they haven't really released nuance. The streamers haven't really released nuanced data about viewership. So I don't want that I don't listen to that narrative. I don't believe it. It's kind of like with the Marvels, it did not do well at the box office. And there's a lot of reasons why it didn't do well at the box office.
I saw it. I loved. Thought it was a good time. Greatest movie I've ever
I
seen in my
thought it was
life.
like,
No. Was it trying to be? No. Was it a good time at the frickin' movies? Yes.
yeah, it
I,
absolutely was. It absolutely was. And I think there were a lot of reasons why, first of all, I don't think it was marketed well at all.
not at all. Well, they
It,
couldn't. It was they couldn't.
yeah. And it came out at a really weird time.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot, and there is fatigue with the MCU right now, but I'm like, people showed up for other MCU movies that were terrible. Like. So, but I think the viewership data as an indicator of what we can and should continue to make more of is a little bit complicated, and I don't think that it's being given the nuanced look at it that it needs to. um
Totally
I don't know,
agree.
sorry, I went on another tangent.
No, and this is why this is the fastest half an hour in the business because these are the discussions that I want to have. And I feel like if this was a 2 or 3 hour podcast, I think some of those would get lost, is because I wanted to have the appropriate punch that they need. In the last like 20 seconds here before Zoom shuts off and tells me to go fuck myself, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? Where can they see your work?
So much power, so much responsibility. Yeah, I'm American Megalo on all of the socials. I don't really understand how Mastodon works, so I'm there, but I'm not
Is
really
that
there.
still a thing?
I
Crazy.
think
Okay.
so. Someone keeps sending me like there's a writer that I really love who lives in the Bay Area, and my friend will be like, "Oh, look, she's doing a thing," and I'm like, "How did you? Oh, Mastodon." But I'm all over the Twitters, Blue Sky, and Instagram, and you can also find me that as my Gmail address. I want to tell people that I have a community of women and non-binary screenwriters over 40. So if that's you, please find me. I'm trying to build a gigantic network, and now that it's as big as it is, I can go to some fancy people and say, "Hey, would you like to do a talk for us?" Because we have the numbers. So come find us. I'm hoping to do an end of the year blast of all the accomplishments that came from that community so that we can let the world know that we are here and we are talented. Um, I'm
That's
working.
incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
It's been really cool. It started as a response to something that was happening with the Writers Lab. They came to the Screencraft Summit, virtual summit, and they had like a breakout room. I don't know if you're familiar with that lab, but they do one in the US and one in the UK, but I feel like people from Ireland are also invited. But anyway, it's for women and non-binary screenwriters over 40, and they have these really big, generous names of sponsors, but they only can fund one, those two labs a year. So they were talking about how they'd like to do more. And I was like, well, I could start something. And so here we are, 350, almost 400 members later. And we've had like Meg LaFauve has come to visit us, Pilar Alessandra, Lillian Wang, who writes on Fubar and Reacher. So trying to do more of that, getting some industry professionals to us and letting the industry know that we're here. And in terms of what I'm working on right now, I'm working on my first comedy, for better or worse. It's a half-hour pilot about menopause onset witches. And that's
All
why I'm
right.
watching Golden Girls right now, because I am just trying to get at the heart of how to make it as beloved for this very specific set of protagonists I have.
Well, that sounds amazing, and I very much hope that in whatever way this program can assist with getting that word out. 400 people. That's no joke. That's a good number, and hope
Yeah, it's
that number
odd.
gets bigger. Megan Rees, thank you very much for stopping by Bolded Slugs. I very much appreciate your time, and hope to have you back on at some point in the future.
Thanks for having me. And I do bold my slug lines.
Bolded Slugs, the podcast, would like to thank our partners at FilmSnobbery.com for hosting our show. Today's music is Sublime by Ken Bashari from the Free Music Archive, licensed under Creative Commons. Bolded Slugs, the podcast, is a Dapper Duck media production.